welcome to another episode of On the Mat today. Today we're going to look at table pose. Now in table pose, we have our hands and our knees connected to the earth. And so the symbolism behind this pose is looking at the four cardinal directions, north, south, east, and west. And within these directions, many different traditions see all of the elements, even all of the aspects of our life. And they use them for rituals, for meditation. You can even use them for jumping off for different journaling ideas. So when we're in table pose, we also do cat and cow pose. And we're looking at the balance between all the different aspects of our life, having both stability and flexibility. And when we do that, we can literally flow through our life very easily. And we're going to see that in all different aspects of this pose between table, cat, and cow, which we do in table pose. So in looking at mat support today, I wanted to look at the directions. And when we're in the pose, or even in the pose, and if you want to come into seated, we're going to do a meditation that calls in the directions. We're going to do that so that we can get us thinking about all the different parts of our life. There's so many aspects to each of our lives, and it can be overwhelming. But when we look at each of the directions, we look at what they bring to us, and we're doing this pose, it can be a great way to get us thinking about where we want to make changes in order to better balance our life. So for mat support, we're looking at the four cardinal directions. And the first one we're going to start with is east, and that represents air. So in order to do that, I have a celestite crystal. You can have any kind of blue crystal, maybe representing air. If that's, some people also use yellow to represent it. You could have a feather. My feather was too big to use on this today because you notice I have my portable altar out here, which again is just a terracotta pot filled with some stones. But I used a incense cone because again, I'm not going to light it today, but if you light it, it does the smoke, and that can represent air for us. So that is the east representation. For south, we're looking at fire. So I grabbed a sunstone. You could use any red crystal, and I used a candle for fire, but I grabbed one in red and just kind of shoved that down in my stones. Again, not going to light it today because we're using it very close to us. The next one is the west, which is water, and that is represented by black. So I have black tourmaline. You could also use labradorite. For some people, they like to use the seashell. That's an easy representation of water. I just have a little tiny, tiny bottle filled with water that I like to lay against that stone. And then for the north, we're talking about earth. You could use any different plants. I took a piece of sage. And you can also use a white crystal like moonstone. I have white aragonite right here for mine. So you can set these, you could actually, in this pose, when you're in table on your hands and knees, you could set that on your mat to actually be underneath. I'm going to leave it right beside me. And I want to start to look at the pose. Now, the counterindications for this pose are knees, because we're on them for so long, and the wrists, because, again, we are on them for so long in the pose. And wrists especially, we're not used to, unless you're someone that does a lot of inversions and handstands and things like that, our wrists can kind of get kind of weak, and they tire easily in this pose. So we're going to look at supporting them and a few different parts of the pose that will help you with that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and turn to the side on my mat. The first thing I'm going to do, though, whenever I do table pose, I like to have a blanket under where my knees are going to go. So I'm going to put this right here. And then the other thing you can do is for your wrists, because your hands are going to be down flat, is take like a dish towel, a bathroom hand towel, and I like to roll it up and put it on my mat, because you're going to want to have the hollow of your palm elevated anyway, and this kind of helps. For some people it might not help. You may just want to do it flat without it, but this is an option. So let's go ahead and get on our hands and knees in this pose. And we're looking to find stability here. So the first thing I want to do is look at that we have our shoulders over our wrists and that we have our knees and hips aligned. So let's start with the hands for those wrists. We kind of want to shake each hand out. Our fingers are going to be kind of spread, and again, we're looking for that hollow underneath the palm to be elevated. So you're going to do that with both hands. Just kind of find the natural alignment of the hand and you're putting it down. The middle finger should be towards the front of your mat. Now you don't want to lose balance you want to have flexibility in your spine, but you don't want to lose the balance by kind of letting it sink. You want to have a nice, long, flat spine. So make sure the shoulders are back and that the back is nice and flat. The feet you want also to be hip distance apart. It may feel a little bit strange to be in this pose initially, but this is what it looks like. And so from here, if we have the shoulders back and we have that chin tucked and we're kind of glancing at the top of our mat, we're going to start to notice our breath. And from the breath, we're going to move into cat and cow. So let's go ahead and find our inhale. And on our next exhale, we're going to let the hips tip down, and vertebrae by vertebrae, we're going to let the spine rise up towards the ceiling. The shoulders are going to roll forward, and the head's naturally going to start to incline down. We're looking towards the center, or the mat, or towards heart center. Go ahead and breathe here for a moment. And then when you find you're going to need your next inhale, we're going to tip the hips back up and let each vertebrae of the back start to round. The shoulders are going to go back again, and we're starting to look up toward the ceiling. So this is cow pose. So coming back to table and that flat back, inhaling. And as we exhale, we're going to let the hips come down, round the back up, drop the head into cat pose. Breathing, and as you find your next inhale, let the hips come down, rounding the back, and head up for cow pose. So when you're coming into table, with each breath, you can start to find a mini flow. So finding our breath here, take an inhale, exhale and find cat, inhale and find cow, exhale into cat, and inhale into cow. So we're kind of doing a mini flow when we're in this pose. So what I want to do next is a guided meditation that calls in the 4 directions. And it's going to list all the different aspects of our life, because I'm going to give you a journaling challenge afterwards. So for this, you can stay in table pose and do cat and cow. Or if that is uncomfortable on your wrist, go ahead and do the pose, and when we start the meditation, come back to a seated position. Now, in a seated position, you can also do cat and cow. So let me show you really quickly. So in case during the meditation, we are going to do cat and cow. So if during the meditation, you need to come to a seated position, or you just want to start in a seated position, cat and cow is just doing the same thing. So if we're going to kind of tip and round and drop the head for cat, and tip the hips the other way, arch the back and look up for cow. So we can find both of those positions seated as well. So if that's your choice for the guided meditation, go ahead and just do the pose, come back to seated. If you want to do the meditation in the full pose, that's fine as well. I'm going to, just for ease for myself, go ahead and sit so I can read the meditation to you. So if you're going to get into your table pose, go ahead and do that now. And if you've been in table pose and you'd like to just sit for the meditation, go ahead and do that. Or see how long you last through the meditation in table. Come to seated whenever you want. Okay. I call in the direction of the east, the element of the air, the place of the rising sun and new beginnings, the energy of spring. Great Eagle, grant gratitude as you show us our possibilities. With a practice of mindfulness, we find rebirth, the ascension of a new vision. Protect with your wing and teach to transcend this world. Allow the winds of change to bring inspiration, mental clarity, and open-mindedness, along with the illumination of intellect and intuition. Hail and welcome. I call in the direction of the south, the element of fire, the place of full sun and vitality, the energy of summer. Great Serpent, grant passion and power. Teach us to shed the past and walk softly upon the earth, releasing the healing power of nature. Bring your transformative heat for growth, light the darkness, ignite motivation and enthusiasm, and increase our will to live, our childlike desire for adventure. Hail and welcome. I call in the direction of the west, the element of water, the place of the setting sun, giving thanks to the dark spaces navigated for wholeness, the energy of fall. Mother Jaguar, teach us to live impeccably with peace. Grant empathy and compassion. Explore the ebb and flow of emotions as you purify thoughts for reflection, cleansing, clarity, and healing. Hail and welcome. I call in the direction of the north, the element of earth, the place where we give back to our community, a place where our soul can serve, the energy of winter. Great White Buffalo, grant strength and courage to embark on a journey of evolution and growth filled with hope. Let us look inward to the heart for unconditional love of ourselves and others. Support the growth of strong roots so that we can rise calm and balanced with the patience and endurance needed for solitude and stillness and for dreams. Hail and welcome. I call in the direction of above, calling the energy of Father Sky, Grandfather Sun, Grandmother Moon. I call in the direction of below, calling in the energy of Mother Earth to support and ground. And I pray for healing for all of your children, stone, plant, four-legged, two-legged, creepy crawlers, finned, furred, and wings. I call in the direction of the mysteries in between, center, and that which connects us to all. I set my intention. Allow me to meet life's challenges with flexibility at all times along my journey. Thank you, the direction of the east, the element of air, and the great eagle. Thank you, direction of the south, the element of fire, the great serpent. Thank you, direction of the west, the element of water and Mother Jaguar. And thank you to the direction of the north, the element of earth, the great white buffalo. Thank you above, below, and within, and all others. You are free to go, but also welcome to stay. Go ahead and come back to seated if you stayed in the pose. If you stayed in the pose, congratulations, because the meditation was about 4 minutes, and that's a really long time for that pose. So I hope that you honored your body and came back to seated when you needed to. Now I want to encourage you throughout this week to repeat this pose. Redo the meditation. Again, as long as you can in the pose, or do the pose and do it seated, a mixture of both. Try to do this on 4 consecutive days. And then each day I want you to journal on a different element. attention to the words, to the different things that are brought up about life in each direction, and then take that, one of the things that really calls to you, and journal about it. Let me give you some examples. So for the East, we talked about it's new beginnings. So what are the possibilities that you see for yourself? The South, what are you passionate about? West, what are you grateful for? That's the fall, when we look at the things that we're grateful for in the fall. And North, where can you serve? Where can you be useful? So I want to thank you for joining me today, and I hope you enjoyed the pose and the meditation, and I hope you'll come back and redo it as a jumping off point for journaling. Thank you for being with me today. Namaste.